3 sections on transplantation, cancer immunology, and autoimmunity. It was great. But it was in a European setting. Now, I come from Olivet Nazarene University or Calvin College, and I use the word Christian, and that's all warm and fuzzy. Guess what happens at this secular university? I use the word Christian, and it's hostility sometimes. Why is that? Whether we can figure out why that is or not doesn't change the fact that it's real for that person. What about mutant? I mean, mutant is another one of those words that get a lot of emotional baggage attached to it. I mean, after all, how would you feel if someone came up and called you a mutant? It's not exactly the thing that would make you feel favorably toward this person. And then finally, random. So I think it's important, if we're going to try to communicate across areas that have been misunderstood and are creating cultural conflict, that it's important we define our terms carefully and recognize some of these other things that are associated with it. Let's look at evolution as just one example of the words that were on that list. In my general biology class, I have 130 students or so in that class. So I'm standing here in this raising lecture hall that goes way up there, and they come from every gamut. Very conservative Christian to moderate to in the road to more aggressive, whatever that means, and atheist, agnostic. You got the whole spectrum there. And so my role as an educator is try to communicate to all of them. Okay? But some of the people will ask me and say, well, is evolution true? And my answer is yes, yes, no, and maybe. How's that for really nailing it down? Yes, yes, no, and maybe. Yes, evolution generically changed through time. We say Calvin College has evolved through time. Sure, generically, evolution is right, or is correct in that sense. Evolution describing the genetic mechanisms of biological development. Yes, we can demonstrate that. Evolution, the atheistic interpretation that says if evolution is true, therefore God doesn't exist. No, that's not a legitimate conclusion of science. That's a philosophical statement. And the last one, maybe. And this takes us back to the origin of life on this planet. About 3.5 to 3.8 billion years ago, the fossil record is very clear that there were very simple single-cell organisms, sort of like our modern-day cyanobacteria and these structures, stromatolites, on the beach of Australia. Long time ago. How did they get there? When I looked at some of the proceedings of conference on chemical evolution recently, I was struck by the concluding summary at the end of the conference. They did sort of like a summary executive statement, and the answer was, we don't know. We don't know if this is how it happened or not. We don't have it figured out. And so if a person wants to be opposed to evolution, and you want to use this definition of evolution, you can actually stand pretty strong on that one. Because we don't know how the first life 3.5 billion to 3.8 billion years ago arrived on the planet. What we do know is that that life was there. And once that life was there, then through this process, it's relatively, and I use that word with lots of emphasis, relatively easy to understand how all life then develops from that point. Okay? So you see, when we talk about these terms, it's important that we're very precise. Because if I talk to a friend on the street and or someone at my church and they say, is evolution true? Or we start talking about evolution, I've got to identify which one of these I'm talking to, or else it will go right past. We won't even hear each other. And I think that's where a lot of the misunderstanding comes from. Another question students ask me, is evolution a theory or is it a fact? It's usually posed as, well, evolution is just a theory. That also betrays a definition that science is attached to the word theory. So what's the answer? Evolution is both a theory and a fact. Fact. Biological evolution has occurred. Someone I spoke to last night said, and should include, and is still occurring. Theory. Theory explains many diverse facts from different scientific disciplines. So if you look at it this perspective, from a scientific perspective, fact is relatively weakling, small potato compared to theory, because theory has to encompass facts from lots of different areas to be accepted. Okay? So it's important for us to make sure we're talking on the same wavelength. So when we talk about science and faith, the crux of the issue is really this, isn't it? Scientists are suspicious that Christians want to insert religious beliefs into science. They're afraid of that. The Dover case on intelligent design that occurred here a couple of years ago. I mean, the scientists, they find that absolutely abhorrent that religion will insert into science. On the other hand, Christians fear that science seeks to remove God from the picture altogether. And you say not all Christians think that, and that's true. But how can you not reach that conclusion, at least in the minds of some people, when you hear people like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and others who are saying evolution makes it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist? And you think about it, I mean, actually that's a true statement. But my question would be, you can also be an intellectually fulfilled evolutionist who is a Christian too. And anyway, I'm not so sure that intellectually fulfilled is what I'm really after in life. I've been married to Sally for 32 years now. Maybe it's 33. I should get that right before I go. And I have to tell you, intellectually, I do not understand this woman. That isn't to say that she's hard to understand or that that there's anything wrong. There's nothing wrong. But that's not what I value about her most. It's that relationship that I have, which I can't touch with my intellect. And it's that same sort of relationship in terms of my belief in God that I can't really completely touch with my intellect. So when Dawkins says, evolution makes it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist, I say, you go, man. Enjoy it. I want more than just intellectual fulfillment. It implies that intellectual fulfillment is all there is. I think there's more. So this comes to our discussion of randomness, understanding randomness. From the title of my book, you can probably tell already, Random Designer. I think this word is pivotal to addressing the science, religion, Bible, biology, evolution, creation debate. Oops, sorry. Well, in biology, we find that there are lots of random processes that take place. So, for example, sperm and egg. Was it by design or was it by chance that your mother's egg and your father's sperm, out of millions, happened to collide together to form this unique individual called you? Design or chance? Random processes were involved in that. I don't think any of us would want to claim that it was anything other than just the way it was supposed to be. Okay, we're here, and we're unique. Even in terms of our biochemistry, randomness plays a role. We have soda pop over here. I drink a can of soda pop that has sugar in it. And the rules of randomness say that when I drink that soda pop, the glucose comes into my stomach, is quickly absorbed by the cells, and randomly disseminated throughout the entire body. We wouldn't want it any other way, would we? We wouldn't want to exclude the big toe from glucose, or the ear, or the brain. We want that randomness. It accomplishes a good purpose. Even the biochemical reactions that drive all life. I mean, really, life is chemistry. It's biochemistry. But those reactions are fueled by the second law of thermodynamics that says there is a directionality to this world. And if that second law were not there, the forces of randomness were not there, there would be no biology, there would be no movement, there would be no chemistry, you wouldn't have to go to school anymore. I mean, there'd be nothing to learn. Okay. My field is immunology, and this was one of the first, actually chapter 23 of my book addresses this one. Because in the immune system, we have a real problem. We have about, they say, around 22 or 23,000 genes. And each gene codes for a protein. Each protein has a function. And so who we are as individuals are dependent upon the proteins that are produced from those genes.